Okay, so now we start the webinar on International Voluntary Day. Welcome everyone and good morning from Indonesia. In my city now where I'm based, it's 1:30 p.m. So it's a very good afternoon, but unfortunately we have raining at the moment, but that's okay. I hope you have a good time in this International Volunteer Day. It's now the time and safe space to celebrate and mark the achievement, the spirit of volunteer all over the world, since it's mandated by the United Nations General Assembly in 1985. So before we proceed to the main agenda, I would like to remind the audience to stay muted, and then please turn off your video except for the speakers and also the moderator, as we are going to be live on YouTube of Great Indonesia and also Dompet Duafa. So once again, I would like to remind the attendants, the participant, to turn off the video and also stay muted, because we are going to be live on our YouTube channel of Great Indonesia and also Dompet Duafa. As I see some videos still on. Okay. Okay, then please the co-host help me to stop the video of the participant. It doesn't mean we don't want to see your face. It's just for the sake of the show on YouTube, because the screen is limited. So we just want to put all the face of the speakers today. But later on, we will have a photo session where all you can turn on your video, and we will have all the faces on the screen. So here are the common rules. The audience mic must stay muted throughout the webinar, and all the question will be written on the chat box. Audience video should be off. I hope now everyone is off with the video, and there should be no head speech comment or head speech comment is allowed. And question can be put on the chat box, and attendance list is available at the end for those who are wishing for e-certificate of participation for this seminar. And this is the International Volunteer Day, 5th of December. So I'd like to wish you a happy International Volunteer Day, especially to those who've been working so hard as a volunteer during the pandemic or even before the pandemic, who's been actively involved in many voluntary service activities in your country or abroad. And I would like also to encourage all the participants to kindly follow Instagram or social media of the organizer. The organizers for this webinar are Dompet Duafa and also Great Indonesia. So please kindly follow the Instagram at Dede Sulsel, DD Sulsel, and at Great Indonesia. And also you can also subscribe the YouTube channel of Great Indonesia just to keep updated about the programs and activities, voluntary service activities in Indonesia. So before we proceed to the main discussion with the panelists today, I would like to invite Mr. Rakesh Sons, the CCIVS Focal Point Asia. The time is yours.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
And namaste, all the way from India. On behalf of CCIVS Focal Point of Asian region, I would first like to recognize the whole community of volunteers who have helped connect, form, coordinate community engagement and risk communication during these challenging times. CCIVS as a global coordination body for IVS movement We understand it's not enough just to sustain, but now is the time to regenerate. It's important to gain new skills, new thinking, new ways of doing things, and building more connections. People have started recognizing the importance of human capital and one's capacity to empathize. Now, as we celebrate the 100th year of IVS movement, and volunteering has become a vehicle of non-formal education for building capacities, especially among youth from around the world, and also to promote social leadership along with global competencies, which is very essential, we believe, to build a better future for all ourselves. Now, Asia, having more than 50% of the world youth, has an immense opportunity to get involved in this wave of voluntary revolution, what I call, that has already started. Now, individuals, schools, universities, corporates are talking about volunteering and community engagement. Why? Who would have thought a virtual volunteering? Now we are doing that, but it's happening already. And I'm sure this webinar will give more light on these things. Finally, I would like to wish fellow speakers and this webinar a great success in motivating youth and people, especially in the Indonesian audience, with the hope more youth are enrolled and engaging in IVS movement in future. I congratulate webinar organizers, GREAT, and Dompet Duafa Sulawesi Selatan for this great collaboration of organizing a great opportunity for all of us to come together for building a better world through volunteering. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rakesh, for a very motivating message to all of us here. And for sure, it's very relevant to all the participants, also I think the speakers, because most of us here are volunteer and most of us are still young. So young people involvement in the volunteer service is very undeniable. And today we would like to take the spirit and celebrating this International Volunteer Day together with you and all the volunteer, the activists in order to create a better world now and in the future. So thank you very much, Rakesh, for your time. So I'd like also to remind everyone and inform you that this webinar is going to be recorded as well. And we are live also on YouTube of Great Indonesia and Dompet Duafa. And before we proceed to our main agenda, I would like to have an ice breaking, a short ice breaking. Please go to this link because we would like to invite you to congratulate or to send a positive message to all volunteers all over the world through the Jamboard of Google. So please get to the link. I will pass the link on the chat box so you also can contribute. Wait a moment, please. Okay, so I just put the link on the chat box. So please go through the Jamboard, and you will find a space with lots of sticky notes. I will slide show my Jamboard so everyone can see, and I will just like do a little bit demo so you can follow the excitement of jamming on the board. So everyone can see. So here we have a message to volunteer. So feel free to use your language. You can use Indonesian language, Bahasa Indonesia, Malaysian language, Malay. You can use English or any other language that you wish to use. And you just uh, double click in one of the box, the sticky notes here, and then you can type your message. For example, I will write one in Indonesian and save. Then it will be my sticky note. Don't forget to put your name on it and also country so we can identify your name and country. And we have unlimited slides, so you can go through uh, the second page, the second slide, third slide, fourth slide. So feel free to use it. This is very easy. Oh, the link is not there yet. Sorry. Okay. Sorry for the technical error. Now you can get the link there on the chat box. I hope everyone can get it and can log into the link. This link will be open throughout the webinar, so you can come here to write your message to the volunteers and back to the main room and join the seminar again. Or you can do it at the end of the webinar, or you can do it now. If you wish to write more message to the volunteer, please feel free to use it now. But I'll just stop share screen here and we'll get back to our Jamboard later at the end so we can see all the message from you guys. And now we will proceed to the main discussion with the panelists. So I'll stop sharing and I'd like you to meet all the panelists here. We will get back to the Jamboard later on at the end of the webinar. So today's speaker, we have Izmi Novia, co-founder and chairperson of Great Indonesia. Hello, Mbak Izmi. And we also have Wilbert Helslot, Service Civil International or SCI activist from Belgium. Hi, Wilbert. I know it's very early in the morning, but thank you for your time. Mbak Izmi also very early in the morning because now she is in Bulgaria. Yes, and we have Tazin Ang, Director of Giving for Earth, Give Myanmar. Good afternoon, Tazin. And also we have Samuel Musa Nusa Ziwa. Is Samuel here already? We'll get back to him later. And last but not least, we have Samsul Ardiansyah, the Recovery Environment Manager of Dompet Duafa. Okay, for the first speaker, for the first session, each speaker will talk for about 5 minutes, and then we will be having a dialogue. And please feel free to write your question. If you have question on the chat box, we'll get back to your question later after all the speakers, all the panelists have delivered their presentation. For the first presentation, it will be Izmi Novia, the co-founder and chairperson of Great Indonesia. So Izmi Novia, the time is yours.
Thank you, Rahmat. Hello, everyone from all over the world. I would like to ask Rahmat or co-host to project my presentation.
A moment, please.
Okay. I would like to really share my feeling that I'm happy to see familiar faces here, colleagues, friends from also from IVS, also actually local partners of Great here. It's really happy.
And how is the weather in Bulgaria now?
It's winter. I think at this hour is about 0.
The winter is coming.
Yeah, it has come.
Okay, is the presentation ready? Okay, it seems like we have a little bit a technical issue. So Ismi, I will proceed to Wilbert first, and then later on we'll come back to you afterwards.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry for that. So Wilbert, we'd like to invite you to deliver your presentation. Wilbert is a SCI activist from Belgium. I've met him once or a couple of times in Semarang, Indonesia, when he was here. He's been very active with lots of experience in volunteerism. I believe his story, his experience is very worth listening. So please welcome Wilbert from SCI, Belgium. Time is yours.
Thank you, Rahmat, and welcome everybody. I will have a short presentation, but I would like to tell a personal story, because I think volunteering is like something personal from your heart, and also to open your heart. And so I would like to share a personal story with you, and I will also come to SCI, but I think it's important to highlight your personal impacts that it has on you and on the local communities as well. But for me, I started volunteering in 1993, a long time ago, in Croatia. It's in southeastern Europe, and at that time there was a war going on there, and actually this was also the reason to go there, because I was listening to the news, I was listening to the radio, television, watching television, reading newspapers about the war, and I thought I should do something. And then I saw a new advertisement in the newspaper, and I thought, yes, I want to go. So I was prepared, and I went there and I went to a refugee camp to organize activities for children. During the war with Bosnian refugees in Croatia, and that experience was like life-changing. It was like I met an international group of volunteers. It's called a work camp. It's like an international voluntary project of 2 or 3 weeks. Well, I was planning to stay there 3 weeks. I stayed at the end 4 weeks, but that period, that time was so enriching to share with other volunteers something valuable, support for the refugees, and at the same time also gaining insights what it is like to be in a war area, to hear the stories from the refugees, to learn. To also have the feeling at the place itself, to have local insight of the situation there. And that makes volunteering, international voluntary service also different than just traveling. It is like, you get in direct contact with the local people. It's like a two-way communication. You give something valuable, but you take also something. You learn from their situation, from their community building, what you support as volunteer. So it's something. Yeah, it's, for me, it's also a give and take, a two-way communication, volunteering. And after the first work camp in Croatia, I got active in SCI. SCI is Services for International. It's an international peace organization. Our slogan is volunteering for peace. And and we organize so-called work camps indeed, and also long-term volunteering projects to give volunteers the opportunity to live and live and work with an international group of volunteers at a place.
Wilbert, do you have presentation you'd like to share? You have slides to share?
No, sorry, I don't have slides to share.
Okay.
So, but I will use the chat to give some extra information for the spectators. So after the first work camp, I got active and I went to other work camps, other voluntary projects, and so I went to Northern Ireland. I went to other countries in Western Balkans, in Southeastern Europe. And I give a short overview where I went. It is not the list is not extensive, but I put it in the chat. I won't go too much into this. You can read it. Oh, sorry, that's double, I think. But there's, anyway, it's a list where I went to several places, and I got active also in SCI on the organizational level, and volunteering for me became a way of life. For me, it's like a way how to suit my life to the needs that I have, but also to the wishes that I have, to live my life in the way I want to, and to open my heart to give something and to take and to learn something in a way I want to do it. And of course, I call it as a way of life, and I realize, and I also realize myself, that you also have to work for a living and so on. So, so I do temporary part-time and full-time jobs to earn my living. But the way to earn a living, I want to spend also the money that I spent. I would also to dedicate to volunteering, because that is what I want to do. So in that sense, it became a way of life for me. And this year, SCI also got was a special year for SCI. SCI is 100 years old. This year, it's 100th anniversary, and exists 100 years, and it's like a milestone for SCI. But it was also other year, and it was marked by the pandemic. And SCI got into we also faced with the pandemic, and international voluntary service. That means traveling, means exchanging with other volunteers, and suddenly it seemed not to be possible anymore. So we got together online, and we thought, what could we do? And in April this year, there was like an Innovation Action Week. Means innovation and action together, to see what we can do in the circumstances of the pandemic in volunteering online, but also still offline, to reach out to groups that we didn't reach yet. So, for example, the Dutch branch of SCI, they reached out to immigrants without papers who live there, are actually not non-existing in the Netherlands, but they live in the Netherlands, and they had, especially during the pandemic, they had a hard time because their source of income, like they are not allowed to work, but they worked on the black market. It disappeared because were suddenly without job and without income, and it was difficult to live. So we reached out to them, and we didn't reach out to them before. So it was like an innovative way how to go on with volunteering and reach out to new groups and to do things that you never did or never did. Sometimes did, but at least it was new. And another project that we started was online work camps. That seems a bit odd because it is not working together. It seems like exchanging as we do now at Zoom. But it has also a work expect online work camp. You meet together at Zoom. For example, in the morning you meet at Zoom. In the afternoon you work at your local place, in your local community, and then in the evening you exchange again. And some branches were really active, like SCI Germany. They did a couple of online work camps. There were online trainings, and it showed that we can volunteer, that we still can reach out to groups, that we still can work what we wanted to do. Okay, it is in another way, but we can still, yeah, we still can. So. And that's the link is a link to the slogan of the International Volunteer Day today. Together we can through volunteering, and I would like to give back the floor to Rahmat and my speaking here. Rahmat, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize that my mic is still off. So thank you very much, Wilbert. I think it's a very interesting story. You have such a long story with volunteer activities. I think it will be worthwhile to put it in a book as well. Just an idea. And we will get back to you later because it will be very interesting to discuss how we can volunteer online, as you mentioned before, during this pandemic. So let me get back to Ismi again. Ismi, are you ready with your presentation? Ismi?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, now hear you. Are you ready for your presentation?
Yes, but can we now project from you or any of the co-host?
Okay, please, for the co-host to slide share the presentation of Ismi. It should be working by now.
Yay.
So again, I would like to remind to the audience or participant, you still can participate in our Jamboard. Again, I will post the link on the chat box. You can go through the link and make your sticky note. Please send and write your message to volunteer all over the world for their hard work, their dedication, and all the good things that they have done in this world. Together, we want to celebrate this IVS Day, International Voluntary Day. Moreover, it's a pandemic. Everyone is struggling, and I know lots of volunteers out there put their life at risk by becoming volunteer for medical issue, for a social cause to help each other. So please write whatever you want to put your message on the sticky note. Please make a new sticky note, use them as much as you want, and please go through the first, second slide. And then at the end, we will also be back to the Jamboard and see the colorful message for all volunteers in the world. Okay, the presentation is ready. And I also would like to remind all the audience to stay muted and the video should be off, except for the panelists. And at the end, we will post a attendance list just to identify your name for the certificate of participation. Okay, we still have a technical issue, so let me go to Tazin first. Tazin, can we proceed to your presentation?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Great
Tazin,
Indonesia.
yeah, Tazin is a
Yes.
director of Giving for Earth in Myanmar. So please feel free to share your screen.
Oh, okay.
And you have 5 minutes for the presentation, and we will continue with dialogue and question from the audience. To the audience, please feel free also to use the chat box to communicate or interact with the panelists. If you have questions, please raise it on the chat box.
Okay. Can I start now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you and nice to meet you. I'm from Myanmar. My name is Tazin Ao. You can call me Tazin. And I prepare 3 minutes PowerPoint slide. I hope to finish in 3 minutes. And I prepared my volunteers prepared the video clip, 2 minutes video clip. So I hope I could finish on time. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes, it's on the screen.
Okay. So yeah, together we can, yes, as Wilbert mentioned, and also this year's slogan. So, but for me, I will focus mainly about how our volunteering team and how Myanmar volunteering team respond on the pandemic. So for the volunteering experience and everything, feel free to reach me or reach to it's me and X or other SCI members, because I was also a SCI volunteer 10 years ago. So this is our current cases. Well, we cannot compare to Indonesia, of course, but we are the third highest rate in Southeast Asia. And start from here, as you can see, we can get a daily rate every evening. Before that, we couldn't have that kind of data. You know, Myanmar is not so much high in the research, doing the collecting the data before. But now many volunteers, young people, and also expert help to collect the data. So, well, yeah, times is changing. So we can have updates, news, and also those cases, new cases as well. And yeah, here is a brief about the how Myanmar respond. It's really a lot. So let me briefly go through the areas of volunteering and to give you a view of how Myanmar has during this pandemic. So we have, of course, for treatment, we have hospital, fever clinic to test, and then chill center, and of course, the community. And info sharing is kind of important as well, and technology. And the green line is how Give Myanmar respond and what is our voluntary service. So on the above, it's what the social service organizations, how the health service providers, government staff, even the volunteer government staff, they do voluntary in the hospital and clinic. So let me focus more on what we are doing as a GIVE team. So during this pandemic, we made awareness raising and sharing sessions. This is I'm a member member and also a moderator of this Myanmar COVID-19 community group on Facebook. And we have over, as you can see, that the members are over 700,000, almost 8,000. And they also have expat volunteers from abroad, and also those who are working in Myanmar, like working from UN agency, international NGOs, and also Myanmar volunteers. Many volunteers are providing the information and also the knowledges and the news about the COVID-19 in the group. And so we help as far as we can to respond in the group as well. So next, what GIVE volunteers did is that we made the info sharing. So like that, how the volunteer manage in time of crisis, how they manage to relieve in our page. And also we also made the live stream that was made during, we only have around 1,000, around 1,000 of the cases. And then the team got an idea to make the live streams to give, to raise the awareness to the general public and to know about what is happening in the other countries, because we suddenly closed and we couldn't hear from our volunteers abroad, our partners abroad. So we invited the professor from the universities and also the former volunteers and also the partners and the NGOs, volunteer NGOs, leaders, yeah. And we discussed about the situation happening in their country and their opinion about how they respond in a volunteering way. And yeah, we also made the online series of online sharing workshops. Those are the volunteers. Our volunteers who are the speakers and with their skill and knowledge, we made workshops, sharing workshops. And yeah, in the pandemic is mainly hit to the city, but in the rural center, we can stay, have a small group of people to how can I say, to make the activities. Because in GIVE, we have a community development center. So in the center, there are local young people. Now the university is closed, school are closed, so they cannot go to the school, and their learning opportunity is somehow blocked, because usually when they don't have university classes in their holiday, they may go to the city to attend the extra classes, but now they couldn't because of the pandemic. So we organized the training there. And yes, the trainings are like English teaching conversations. So it's a long-term training, 2 to 3 months, and then we go by rotation. And computer courses. Now I'm teaching and through the online computer how to use the PowerPoint, Word, and Excel for those who never been to this kind of training class. But after pandemic, they can also apply the job and then can have some skills. So we are working on 4 communities in the village. And yes, these are the, now because of the pandemic, the social media skills, people are improving in the social media skills so well to the GIVE team as well. So we approach to the audience through these social platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and of course the pages and the groups. And yes, so I prepared I would like to show the video clip. I hope I still have time. Okay, let me stop sharing. If you have any questions or any comments, you can reach me after this video, okay? Or after when the host gives you the time. Oh. No. Uh-oh. Sorry, I cannot, okay. Okay. Can everyone hear the voice, the music? Okay.
The audio is not really clear from my.
Sorry. Cannot. Maybe I think I
Yeah,
need to reconnect again.
I'm afraid the audio is not clear enough.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I will try again. What about now?
Yes, now it works.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Yeko Wu, and I am one of the co-sons of the For a Parent program. Now I want to share about my daily activities during COVID-19. Stay tuned. Now I am in southern Shan State, Myanmar, because I decided to volunteer in the rural areas, so I came to Shan State to volunteer as a teacher. What I do is I teach the students. Apart from teaching, I also like to travel around the place. So I always go out alone sometimes. I also help in the local farm from the local students.
Oh, I think there's a trouble has come up. I'm not sure I'm still online or not. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we still hear you.
Oh, sorry, there's a trouble come up. Okay. So, okay, cannot reach to the video now.
Okay, no problem. At
Sorry.
least we've got some minutes to watch it, and it's very interesting to see the activities and also to learn many of your initiative during the pandemic.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's come up again. Okay, sorry, solid. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tazin, for your presentation.
It's my pleasure. Sorry for the technical issue.
No worries. That's always.
Yeah, if you want to see the full version of it, please reach to our page so you can see it. Thank you.
And I also invite the audience to ask question by writing your question on the chat box, and later on we will get back to your question right after all the speakers have finished their presentation. So next, we are going to proceed to Samsul Ardiansyah to deliver their presentation. Mas Samsul is one of the humanitarian activists from Dompet Duafa, Indonesia. He has also he has a long history in volunteerism activities in Indonesia and also abroad. Later on, he will share what his organization currently doing and also how the landscape of the volunteerism is still a little bit changing during this time. I will help Mas Samsul to share screen the presentation. So
yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mas Rahmat. Okay, thank you for helping me sharing the presentations. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Introducing, my name is Samsul Ardiansyah. I'm now working in Dompet Duafa as one of staff. Yes, as what Rahmat has been said, that I have also experienced in several volunteering activities, including volunteering activities in Myanmar and also some activities in other countries like Somalia. Here, I would like to share one of our concerns in Dompet Duafa in the context of the volunteering activities. Next, Mas. Okay, thank you. Volunteers in Dompet Duafa. Everyone, volunteerism in Indonesia has strong historical and cultural roots in Indonesian society. Uh, Gotong royong, one of form of volunteerism, has been one of the part of ideology of the nations in Indonesia. So I think together with Myanmar, Indonesia also known as the most generous countries in the world. As well as in the other countries in the world, volunteers also playing key role in every agenda of Dompet Duafa. To date, there are at least 15,000 volunteers involved in almost 196 campaigns, and we have been collecting almost 2.7 billions, or equal to around 600,000 US dollars, and also can reach and be able to provide benefit for 109,000 beneficiaries across the countries. Most of the volunteers of Dompet Duafa come from the millennial and also Generation Z. So those who are born in, I think, late 1990s and until now. They are represents of young people who are creative, digital native. I will tell you about this in the next presentations, and that has manifested in various works, humanitarian works, especially humanitarian actions, disaster response, concerns on environmental sustainability, health and education, and also social services. So this whole thing is the portfolio of Dompet Duafa activities, and in almost every activities there's a strong involvement of the volunteers. During this COVID-19, I think this is also happening in other places in the world. That the response to the COVID-19 has become one of the central theme of volunteering activities in Indonesia. You know, Dompet Duafa has occasionally inviting volunteers in every sectors to involve in response of pandemic. It's not only focused on health sector, also in education, in economic, in other activities that almost every activities has a strong involvement of the volunteer. And the things that we are also note that the COVID-19 pandemic induced lockdown and related global recession has a great, highly uncertain outlook for the labor market and accelerated. Sorry, I can, and I. Previous mas previous from the previous slide, mas. No, the COVID-19 slide. Yeah, this is what we call that the situation has create specific situations that faced by most of the volunteers in Indonesia. As I said before, that most of the volunteers in Indonesia came from the Generation Z. So they were youth volunteerism, and some of them still study in university, and some is already graduated from university. They have their own interest to have like decent works, and the situation that created by pandemic has created uncertain situations in the global labor market that's impacting the COVID-19. Next slide, please. the presentation after that is about the situations. And before us, okay. So right now in Dompet Duafa, we are focusing on focus on the impact of pandemic that had directly or indirectly impacted to the volunteers of Dompet Duafa. First things to say that the volunteers must survive personally because they cannot help others if they are in danger situations, and they also have to able to save their voluntary missions. So these are like a double missions. They have to be survivors in the context of the pandemic in one way, and the other way they have also still need to survive their voluntary missions by adapting new habit to the COVID-19 pandemic. One of activities of Dompet Duafa that is encouraging uh, that currently encouraging is mobilizing volunteers with entrepreneurial skills, so to be able to create jobs for relative and also college, uh, either by recruiting directly or providing training. These activities now are being focus of Dompet Duafa volunteers, because in the next slide I will tell you about the posture of Indonesian society in the context of labor market. So most of labor force in Indonesia was only having basic educations, and the number of unemployment is very high. So in the same times, the COVID-19 has pushed countries to like rate automatization has been improved into 60%, and according to the survey of the World Economic Forum, around 40% of total laborers has to reskill in order to survive. Uh, this this is, I think, this is the challenge of the current volunteerism activities in Indonesia, especially the Dompet Duafa realized that now especially the youth volunteers has their own situation that has to be faced. We are now mobilizing and encouraging our stakeholder donors to support us by donations in order to create sufficient capital so they can start the activities. This is the recession of Indonesia. This slide is apa namanya? Just to share the situations that right now we are under recessions. Next slide, mas. And this next slide is to picture that even before this pandemic situation, the global labor market has not been around 11% has still cannot move themselves from the poverty because of their jobs. The next slide, please, mas. Yes, this is the composition of the labor force, where most of our labor force uh, coming from the basic education, and you can see the relation between education and also job employment has not the gap is very high. So this is our focus right now. We are using our almost all effort to focus on first job creation for to support the voluntary activities. We are also focused on inviting for those volunteers who has entrepreneurial skills to utilize and optimize our wakaf asset to be used as a capital to create jobs opportunity for other relative. So we believe that by doing this, by creating the decent work for for our college and narrative, we can do much more better. This is the kind of volunteerism that will be needed in the post-COVID situations. We also support that. We also say that if uh, this due to this pandemic situation, we are saying that the issue, the concept, the framework that should be proposed is social enterprise, where we have like four circles connecting together: economic, social, institutional, and also environmental value as the tools for the community empowerment. By doing this, the volunteers not only saving themselves from the impact of pandemic in the global in the social context, social and economic context, but they can also provide opportunity for others, their brother and sisters that not still unfortunate situation. And the third is they can also give like a bridge for a better futures. That is all from us, Mas Rahmat, and back to you. And I hope we can have a conversation during the question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Samsul, for providing us with lots of insight of what Dompet Duafa is currently doing during the pandemic and also the focus of the volunteer activities. Next, so now we also have Samuel live from Uganda. Welcome to the room, and he will also be speaking as he is one of the panelists. But before we go to Samuel, I would like to go to Ismi, who's been waiting for her presentation to be displayed. So if the presentation is ready, I'll give the time to Ismi to give us a insight about what a grid is currently doing and also the volunteer initiative during this pandemic or before the pandemic. So GRID is a organization based in Central Java. I think if you are in Indonesia, you are welcome to volunteer with GRID. Later on, Ismi will also briefly explain GRID itself. And if you wish to participate, please, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, please follow the Instagram at grid.indonesia. So time is yours, Ismi.
Thank you, Rahmat. And I just come to realize that Wilbert just shared with us his story is already in the book, so we can wait for the whole story in the next book of Wilbert.
Oh, great.
Because you already mentioned to him to put in the book, but it's already there in the book, the 100 years. Thank you, Wilbert, for the sharing. And I'm very, it was very interesting. I would like to give this bridge, the presentation from Mas Samsul, because now I feel very relate with all of the numbers that he was sharing in Indonesia, relate about myself and what we are doing in grade. But let me, first of all, a bit introduce of myself. I would like to start by sharing this sharing by reminding myself actually and inform all of you about my root, that I'm actually just a villager, come from small town named Blora. So if anyone from Blora, hello. It's a typical small town where almost everybody knows anybody. It's located in the border of Central and East Java. But also through my more than 17 years of involvement in international voluntary service, let's say since I was student, and I would say totally 26 years of volunteering since I was in scouting school, I have grown to be a global villager. That's I want to perceive myself. Not only because I know I might find someone I know in any corners of this global village, so-called world, but also because I find my volunteer moment by realizing that volunteering did change my life, not only their lives. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. And as for GREAT, our NGO, GREAT actually stands for Gerakan Kerelawanan Internasional. This NGO I co-founded with over 20 other volunteers about 5 years ago. Now it's based in the city with the nickname Little Indonesia, Salatiga. It is in Central Java, Indonesia. GREAT has a vision that young people are the agent of change through international voluntary service. And apparently to get there, we figured that we have to provide different types of programs, various fields of voluntary projects. We have to also reaching youth in diverse areas of their hometowns in Indonesia, ranges of time and budget plans for them, and most importantly, to provide safe space for them to learn by doing, to be that agent of change for their environment. Therefore, as you can see in this matrix, we combine numerous categories of volunteering activities, trainings, workshops, as well as local community engagement. Our volunteers basically learn by doing the theory of change through volunteering in GREAT. Can you do the next slide, please? Yeah, and in this slide, here we can see some visuals of those activities that was projected in the previous matrix, from protecting environment in the coastal area, but also in the mountainous area, to supporting marginalized kids for the non-formal educations, and we also training, seminars, and members bonding meeting, and so on. And this is the opportunity I would like to send my heart to all GREAT volunteers from any part of Indonesia or whoever did their volunteering with us, most especially during this global pandemic, to our members to keep doing their service in any way they can. For instance, in this picture, GREAT of Pekalongan keeps planting mangroves in their coast, even though with much less number of volunteers and probably not as much fun when they were with international volunteers right before pandemic. They remain also supporting the kids now with limited number and for their online classes. And for example, GREAT of Bandung managed to gather their members to revisit our local partners in Batu Lojeng village, it's like in Lembang area, to help cleaning action. And GREAT of Semarang continues their open workshops, open for anybody, not only our volunteers or members. It's called International Class and We Connect. And now it's done virtually, providing Indonesian youth with global knowledge and SDGs. We changed seminars into webinars, etc. Several times, GREAT volunteers also created collective actions such as mask donation in their cities, engaging with the local small business to produce the mask and distributed the mask by themselves. And relate to the whole national numbers that was presented before by Mas Samsul, I noticed that these are just tiny gestures within those massive voluntary actions, not only in Indonesia, but also worldwide, that volunteers trying to keep our community engaged and aware about the risk of pandemic, doing healthcare services and so forth. Thus, in this very day is the best day for us and for me to thank to global volunteers around the world to carry on making our lives a little easier and more peaceful. And next slide, please. And as you see, we keep working, and it's great throughout this pandemic. We reflect that we know even more. No matter what happens, we will stick together, supporting good causes that we encountered with our local partners we have been working with, and providing space for our members and future volunteers, a safe space to learn by doing, to be the agent of change through international voluntary service. Thank you, Rahmat. That's about great. And looking forward for more conversation in the question and answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Ismi. It was very great to hear your story of GRADE as an organization and all the activities that you've been doing with volunteer. Even though by data it is just a small part of the big picture of volunteerism in Indonesia, but I think it sparked lots of insight, inspiration, and impact to all people that you've been working with, especially the local people and also the young people that have been involved in great activities. Thank you for sharing that. It's the ambience of today is very, like motivating by listening to your story, all the panelists. But it won't be complete without hearing something from Africa, from Samuel, from Uganda. So we've heard something from Indonesia, Myanmar in the context of Asia and also Europe, and now it's Samuel turns to give us a little bit a insight or stories about the volunteerism in Uganda. So Sam, are you ready with your a presentation?
Yes, unfortunately, I cannot share it with you now. I was disturbed by the server, but I'll try to go through it here because I have it on the paper. Good to see you all, the teamers and the wonderful people over the world. My name is Samuel Ziwa, and I work for a non-government youth-based voluntary service organization called Uganda Pioneers Association. The organization has a bias on voluntary work in youth age group, and we've been in service since 1989. So, but pretty in comparison to the current situation, when we look at the International Volunteers Day, amidst the COVID challenge, I would wish to thank Great Indonesia and all the partners for organizing this webinar so that the countries all over the world could share what they have gone through and what they have done through voluntary work as we celebrate the achievements of volunteering all over the world. This year's theme is very interesting and encouraging, that together we can through voluntary service. Actually, we have our slogan as UPA saying together we shape the future. So it's more or less connected to what the country is celebrating or working with. When you look at this theme, I would want to congratulate all our volunteers and the volunteers all over the world for being brave, positive, contributing to the challenges of the various communities all over the world. To the countries that are in the global south, including Uganda, as people call them, the developing or whatever countries, the definition that somebody can choose, we admit that we have our own challenges. And when you look at sustainable development goal number 3, we find out that volunteers have worked so much towards achieving this. For example, the good health and well-being of the communities. In Uganda here, our volunteers during this COVID have participated fully hands-on in the health promotion practices, for example, hand washing, giving out masks, and sensitizing people on how they should behave during this crisis. So this, because the government has got its own limits in terms of human resource. So in that way, we try to bridge the gap as voluntary service organizations by complementing the government efforts. Our volunteers, for example, during the lockdown, we had a volunteer from Spain who is under the framework of EU aid volunteers. And we moved from community to community in both rural areas as well as the suburban areas in Kampala here in the capital, giving out hand cleaning materials, sensitizing the local masses, especially in the slums, where we saw that the challenge was very high and the risk was so high. And we commend her for that good work. And this was done together with the local volunteers, because actually what happens is that we work with the local volunteers as well as the international volunteers in the execution of our duties. Looking at this day's theme, we also have to treasure the element of partnerships to achieve the SDG goals. It's very paramount to also strengthen in our various locations partnerships, both public and private, so that we can reach the communities. For the sake of our organization, Uganda Pioneer Association is a partner to local, national, regional, and international voluntary service platforms. For example, SCI, that is Service Civil International. We are also partners to the Coordinating Committee for International Voluntary Service. We also partner regionally in East Africa. We have the Eastern Africa Voluntary Service Network. And in Africa, of recent, we have created the platform called NAVO, that is Network of Africa Voluntary Service Organizations. And as we can see, the UN also stresses the need and the relevance to have such partnerships so that we can reach out to different communities and also be on track in terms of achieving the SDGs. As a country, Uganda, we have been hit by the pandemic, and we've seen a lot of contribution in terms of food support and emergencies from our volunteers. For example, we had a phenomenon where government was giving food aid to the very hit communities, but time came when the government could not support this intervention, and the rest was put in the hands of the well-wishers to still participate in this. And so we gave out what we could by mobilizing the communities, soliciting for support in terms of food, so that we could give to the people who need and who could not work during the lockdown. This was very, very important, that we kept our communities and our people alive, even during the time when the lockdown was so strong. During this time as well, all the schools were closed from March until now in Uganda. A few candidate classes are the ones that are participating, but the volunteers, local and international volunteers, have accessed, developed reading, study materials, and are moving on local community levels to engage the local children in education. So they have developed study materials and they are assessing and educating the local volunteers from their households until maybe a time when the government would say that all the children can come back to school. And so you can see when it comes to the SDG on education, you can see that the volunteers have really stood strongly to support the country into this. The other element is about employment creation and amongst the youth. Uganda is a country that has got the biggest percentage in terms of youth. Actually, from 15 to 24 years, they comprise almost 60% of the population, and so we've had a big percentage in terms of unemployment. But through voluntary service, skills have been developed, and the youth can initiate, can create employment themselves, and so that they are not in this big gap of searching for jobs, thanks to voluntary service that has embraced a couple of skills amongst the youths in schools and those that are out of school. So this is a big achievement to celebrate for our country. Yes, looking at also stability and stability within the country, volunteers have stood out within our country. For example, you know about the Uganda's role in hosting the refugees from South Sudan, from Rwanda, from Burundi, from Congo, and from, yes, which other countries? I think even some Eritreans. But all these the government does not have the resources to manage, for example, these refugees. So the volunteers in the different capacities, expatriates from all over the world, the local volunteers have been to these refugee camps or settlements to support these masses to have a decent life. And we are very, very humbled and honored to work with volunteers of different expertise and kindness to support our sisters and brothers in the refugee settlements in Uganda. Yes, of course, there are challenges while the volunteers are doing all this marvelous work. For example, at the moment, the travels are limited. For those that can make it, they are very expensive with lots of restrictions. This is a challenge. And as we speak now, for example, in our organization, we don't have many international volunteers because many of them had to fly back to their countries even before their service was over. And also there are challenges of meeting in groups, and it's really very tricky to extend services to the local needed people, especially if there are restrictions of grouping, because it's very hard to meet each and every one that is in need of your service individually. So this is still also a challenge in conducting or extending voluntary service within our country. Currently, as a country, we're also suffering from the aspects of political kind of challenges. The country is under the campaigns for electing the president come next year, January. So this has also kind of interrupted with what would be the nice good work from the volunteers. They cannot do what they are intending to do for our people. Yes. Ramat, do I have a minute or?
Yes, if you can please wrap up it now, then we can proceed, or later you can continue to the dialogue with all the panelists and also the participants.
Okay, just to wind up, I wish to extend my appreciation to our local volunteers in Uganda, to all the partners that we're working with internationally, locally, and nationally, that I've seen many different types of volunteers coming to our country and going to all over the world to do the missionary humanitarian service. We are really very pleased, and we hope that this should continue for the well-being of the whole world, as well as achieving or contributing to the achievement of the SDGs. Thanks to today's theme while we're celebrating the International Volunteers Day 2020. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Samuel. It's very good to hear the story from Africa and how the involvement of youth in Uganda also give impact to volunteerism. And now we proceed to the dialogue session. It means that all the panelists also the speakers can ask questions to each other, and also we invite the attendees. The participant also can ask questions. So if you wish to ask something, you can write your message or question in the chat box, and I can ask the speaker to touch your question. Is there any question from the audience? Let me go through the chat first. And I also want to remind you that the Jamboard is still available if you want to send or write message to the volunteers all over the world to show an appreciation. Please feel free to get to the link of the Jamboard and put your message on the board. So we have Farah Farhatuso Ima. You can write your question in the chat box, or if you wish to speak directly, I will unmute you and you can raise your question. While waiting for the question from Farah, I'd like to give, there's one question from Ismi to Mas Samsul about the possible cooperation and how Dompet Duafa recruit volunteers before and during class.
Yes. I have read the questions from Ismi, but I cannot type is very quickly because I'm using my cell phone. Ismi, this of course, uh, I think in almost every activities in Dompet Dava is involving the volunteers, and we are not only focused on recruiting the youth volunteerisms, but also volunteers that can be called as like expert of volunteerism. For example, during the response of the Lombok earthquake 2018, 2 years ago, we are recruiting volunteers, architects that can help us to draw the pictures of housing, the temporary shelter that we are going to propose to our stakeholder donors to be to be uh, to be built for the survivors, the earthquake survivors. We also, for example, during this pandemic, we are working on recruiting volunteers in the fields of health sectors. We are recruit, for example, nurse and also doctors to be join with us in the fronts. In the battlefield, the pandemic battlefield. Uh, but we are not focused only recruiting volunteers in the context of responding, but also for the preparation. So we are doing recruitment for the volunteers even before the pandemic. And the possible of cooperation with other institutions, of course, Dompet Duafa is open because Dompet Duafa is belong to the peoples, belong to uh, belong to the peoples, belong to umat. We call it like that, and because of we are belong to umat, we are open to everyone, others, including others organizations, especially volunteering organizations. You can just visit our website volunteers.dompetduafa.org to get more information about our activities. Thank you. Back to you, Mas Rahmat.
Okay, thank you, Mas Samsul. And I think it's also possible to further the communication between you two after this discussion, corresponding via email after this webinar. And I'd like to invite Farah. She'd like to raise a question. So can you, where is Farah? She has a question and she would like to directly ask to one of the panelists.
Okay. Hello. My name is Farah Farhatus Soima. You can call me Farah. I'm from GRID, Indonesia, a member of GRID. I have a question for GIVE, Myanmar. GIVE has a volunteering activity by physical, and I saw that they are so excited to do this activity. How you encourage them, both of volunteers and people of the project, to do this activity during this pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you, Farah. So the question is addressed to Tazin. Yeah, you can give your answer.
Okay, thank you for raising the questions. Yes, during this pandemic, it's not so easy. Well, actually, these are the center already is in the remote area in the countryside, and we have a co-member staff and also co-volunteers there. And actually, the center was not finished there. We are planning to finish by this year, and because of pandemic, we couldn't have enough funding. And as you can see from video, it's only finished one level. Actually, it's supposed to finish 2 levels. We are urgently open the center because of pandemic as well. So it is unfinished, But at the same time, young people, there's a space needed. So we decided to open it and we recruit the volunteers. At first, it was challenging because in Myanmar, the policies are changing time by time during the pandemic. Sometimes we can travel and then sometimes it's suddenly locked. So we always catch up with the news that from our government and also local authority. So at first we opened it for only 1 month volunteering, and then those volunteers who mainly I received former volunteers who already joined our volunteering program before pandemic, and also one volunteer from outside, and then they ran the activities. And then later the boy from the video is actually, he even worked as a camp leader before this program. So he is not a new person, a new volunteer joining our program. He already keeping in touch with and involved with our programs. So he knows the activities and trying to, well, recruiting the participants in the countryside is not so difficult because now, as I mentioned, schools are closed, and also the local authority, they are very cooperative. They even request us to open those kind of trainings program because in the countryside, once young people have no other activities, they might, reach into the negative things like using the drugs or the playing the games. So those kind of things, the elder people are concerned. So we decided to open that, and still the program is still running over there. So yeah, this is how we managed to do that. Well, for me, I'm in Yangon, so I'm not in the remote area, so I manage from the city and we communicate through internet. Well, luckily in that area, we can access the internet. Yes. Thank you for the questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Tazin, for your answer. And there's one question about online volunteering. I'd like to address it to Wilbert first. How does it actually work, the online volunteering? And Diane also asked about the possibility to create a collaboration through online volunteering. So, Wilbert?
Yes, online volunteering, I already said a bit, but I think let me take an example. SCI Germany had an online work camp about sustainable lifestyle. They collected volunteers, they recruited volunteers from all over the world. And that's actually an advantage of online volunteering also. Because you don't need a high travel cost to go somewhere. And of course, you have different time zones, but if you take that into account, then it is an opportunity to reach out to new volunteers, to reach out also to volunteers in remote areas who are not able to travel or doesn't know the opportunities yet to volunteer. So online volunteering gives opportunities. And as I said, the welcome from SI Germany has sustainable lifestyle. So they discussed among each other what is SCI, but also what is sustainable lifestyle. How can we create a sustainable lifestyle? And they did work in the afternoon in the local communities to do, for example, urban gardening. To research what kind of permaculture opportunities there were in their area. So they were going beyond only exchange and only talking. There was also actually work done, and the work was done by the volunteers in their local communities. And one of the aims of International Voluntary Service is not only to do the international work at the local community, but also to multiply that work. When volunteers come back from their travel to Indonesia, to Germany, to USA, to Africa, they are they may be inspired to start something in their local community, and online volunteering gives directly the opportunity to do that. If you organize it well, the local volunteers already find the national volunteers, the local volunteers already find opportunities in their surrounding to do voluntary work after they come back from the Zoom meeting. So it gives it has directly the multiplying effect, what is something very good, I think. And online volunteering is also gives possibilities and regional work camps because this is also, if you take into account what the pandemic also reveals, the impact what climate change has on our planet. But look at ourselves an international voluntary service, how much we did travel and do travel sometimes still to reach out to local communities. How much does it affect to how much effect does it have to on the climate? So it is, the pandemic is terrible, but also it gives opportunities to reflect on what international voluntary service should do to find new ways of international voluntary service, including online volunteering. So it gives opportunities. And to answer the second question, I think we should explore the opportunities in Asia and Africa also to start online work camps together as organizations as we hear now, but also with other partners to learn from examples that already happened from online work camps in Germany, in France, in Switzerland. To take examples of that and multiply that effect. Sorry to speak so much.
No worries, we need the information, by the way. So yes, I mean, like the pandemic wouldn't hinder the volunteerism activities, so it's still possible to do it online, and it's also possible to forge cooperation among the international volunteer service organization all over the world. So it's open any occasion like this webinar. It's I can say it's one of the good side of the pandemic because we can connect easily and organize this webinar, even though in a such short notice. But we are glad we are doing it now. So if you have to audience, if you have more question, please write it on the chat box. I'll pick another question. So to Samuel, how is the involvement of the government during this pandemic? Do you have any project that you're working with the government in voluntary service activities?
Thank you, Ramat. Currently in Uganda, our organization is not engaged with a government program on the pandemic, but we've been called by the local authorities, for example, to support in our local communities in our own capacities. We're not into the mainstream government program, but at the local level, our local networks have called upon us to help the people within the local communities where we serve, for example, the immediate ones. Yeah.
Okay. So, and there's one very good question for everyone from Wilbert in the chat box. Shall we as volunteers to take up the work what the local government actually maybe should do? Any response to the panelists? So it's from Wilbert, shall we, as a volunteers, to take up the work that what the local government actually maybe should do, because maybe the volunteers work harder than the local government. Is that what you?
In
Yes.
that matter, I can give my view in my country.
Oh yeah, Samuel, you can go first.
Yes. What happens actually, it might vary from country to country. For a case of Uganda, the NGOs and other people that are into voluntary work are always called, for example, at the local government, like district meetings, planning meetings, to give their view on what the district has planned, for example, and they always declare that they don't have enough resources. So what happens, we have an integrated plan for a district, and NGOs and other stakeholders can commit a given budget to a given activity, even if it's meant to be done by the local government. For example, schools and health sector, you might have a volunteer who is a doctor or a nurse, and there is a health center in the local government or local district that does not have a doctor. And you would say, let me offer you that in kind, that somebody works for a local government health center for free for 1 year. And the district will count on that, and they also report on it as a contribution towards its plan from a local NGO or other stakeholder. So we can do even what the local government has planned as volunteers.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. I would like to. Sorry. I would like to give my response to what Gilbert has been asking about the local governments. For example, right now in Indonesia, almost every school has been closed. The education activity has been conducted by online using the online platform, but not of especially the student and also the teacher are ready to using the online platform to continue the education activities. The government has provided, like in the context of Indonesia, the government has provided support for the data. The big data provided to the student and also teachers, so they can make education online. But the type, because it's this changing situations, not all the teachers has been ready to use the mobile platform, education platform. So what we are doing in Indonesia is we are creating like several volunteering activities to fill the gaps from the government's policies by conducting training for the teachers, especially teachers from the remote area, so they can use and optimize the mobile platform to continue the education activities. So I'm not saying that we are taking over the government's responsibility. We are still possessed as volunteers, and government still in their position as a government, as a regulators. What we are doing right now is first we are filling the gaps between us, governments, and also civil society, and hopefully we can do much more better for the future generation, because in the context of education they cannot be stopped, but even by the pandemic. My in This is my this is our things to maybe can be used as a response to the Wilbert what's been asking by Wilbert. Thank you. Back to you, Mas Rahmat.
Thank you, Mas Samsul. Mbak Esme, any thought on this?
Well, I would agree to Mas Samsul, but then also in my short answer would be yes and no. But again, I would agree with many points Mas Samsul said. But the important is that for us as a volunteer to keep being conscious, being aware what is going on in our environment, and when some gap as myself said, needs to be filled, we have to come, because that's our duty as human being, you know, and volunteerism is our strength to do it together. So we try our best to keep it up, and if the government do too little, we will go to street.
If the government doing too little, then we'll go bigger. We'll do better and more. And
So let's
Samuel
hope
also,
everything balance.
yes, and Samuel also said that it's a public-private partnership is the key in this. I mean, during also this pandemic context, many gaps are still out there, but it's also the responsibility of the private sector, public sector, and also NGO to fill the gap. So we work together as a one unity. Okay, everyone, if no more question, I think we are about to end our session, and it's getting more interesting at the end of this webinar. But I hope we all still can connect it. So you may contact the organization through their social media, and so each of the speakers also please feel free to share your correspond email or social media of your organization on the chat box, so all the audience also can stay connected and probably ask more information about your organization or voluntary activities that you are currently doing or possible a collaboration in the future. So I would like again to back to our Jamboard and see how is everyone message to to us as a volunteer. So it's been very colorful. Someone changed the background of the Jamboard. If you are not here yet, feel free. I will still be open for any other sticky notes put in this slide, and then I'll download it as a picture or a PDF. And if you want it, just feel free to contact me, and we will post it for sure in our social media to convey your message to all volunteers all over the world in this International Volunteer Day. So I will keep it open until a few minutes after the webinar. And before we end the webinar, I would like to everyone, please, it's now your time to turn on your video, and then we will take a group picture. So everyone is ready. Okay, as we have
Smile.
And I'd like also to remind you that we have presents list. If you wish to get a certificate from this webinar, certificate of participation, please feel free to use this presents list to put your name and other details, and then we will send it after the webinar. It will take some time to send you the certificate, but please use this presents list to get your name on it. So, oh, I see many people already with their camera on. If you don't want to miss this photo session, please turn it on now. Okay, so the photographer, are you ready?
Rahmat, there is
Yes.
somebody feel cannot turn on the video. They said
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
I cannot turn on the camera, and the host turn off their camera or something.
Oh, so, okay. Then it will take few minutes to ask you one by one to turn on your video.
Okay.
Okay, if you have no video, that's okay. That's fine. We have two slides, and we wait for your instruction. Instruction, admin. Should I count or you count?
Everybody is. I can count, but if it's the camera, then I'll go.
Yeah, we can start now.
Okay. Oh. 2, 3, one more. Oh, now people are turning on their cameras. Wait. 1 minute, please. Apparently there is somebody still in the waiting room. Okay, I count now anyway, guys. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Give me your biggest smile. One more. 1, 2, 3. Oh, one more. 1, 2, 3. One more. Seriously. 1, 2, 3. I think. Yeah. Okay. You're
Okay, good. Also good.
good, but just not everybody is with their camera on, so we just take that we can.
Oh, no worries. So thank you very much. I would like to say and extend my gratitude to Mas Samsul from Dompet Duafa, Samuel from UPA, Mbak Ismi from Great, Tasin from Give Myanmar, and Wilbur from SI for your time. It's been a very wonderful day of International Volunteer Day celebration in this 2020. I hope we can have another online webinar again in the future with another topic and with another interesting discussion. And thank you to all audience from Malaysia, from India, from Myanmar. It's very good to see you all from Hong Kong, I guess. Billy HK, is it from Hong Kong? Yes, from Hong Kong. And of course, from Indonesia. It's very good to see you all. And we hope to engage with you all in our social media. So please make sure you follow the social media of all of us here. Let's connect through social media. And then we'll see you again in another webinar of Great and Dope Alpha. Thank you and have a good afternoon. Have a good morning.
Afternoon.
Bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi